Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Krefft, clinical psychologist. This is the fifth in our series of videos on anxiety management during the time of COVID-19. How have you been doing? Are you remembering to do your breathing exercises? Wearing your mask? Building your community supports by nurturing connectivity with both a large group that supports you and a smaller group like family and friends? And have you started, along with the last video, of really paying attention to your self-talk, what you say to yourself in your head about yourself in your world, and particularly into self-talk that is fear-related self-talk, fear-producing self-talk? In this video, I'd like to go deeper into that concept. Deeper in a way that in ordinary times we don't have to go because we're not living through an actual catastrophe. Recently, I heard someone say, "What if we do everything we can and nothing works?" This struck me because it is an example of catastrophizing. That means that's a particular type of thinking in which we use the worst possible language to frame a situation. Now, in ordinary times, catastrophizing is not helpful. That's one of the ways that we scare ourselves and build anxiety within ourselves. But in a time of pandemic, which is a genuine catastrophe, it is certainly not helpful at all to use catastrophizing language with ourselves. Actually, such words are fear-based thinking spoken out loud. We think our feelings, we think our fear, so that we don't have to feel it here and here in the gut. We think our fear so we don't have to feel it. I heard another example of this on April 25th, 2020, while listening to the news briefing of Governor Andrew Cuomo. He said things that were very much to the point of why fear-based thinking is so important that we begin to notice when we are thinking this way. I'd like to read to you some of what he said. I stopped the video and went back over it, so I got it word for word. He said that recently someone had said to him, "I can't do this anymore." He commented, "People are feeling the stress on a number of levels." He went on to say that people are saying, "My whole life has been disoriented. I can't take it. I can't take it anymore." He paused. He went on, "I get it. Many people are saying this in their own way." Yes, many people are saying this, and my guess would be those who aren't saying it out loud are thinking it anyway. I've read this to you because these are examples of fear-based thinking. They are examples of catastrophizing, framing a situation in the worst possible way, and thinking, and then saying out loud, thinking one's fear in order to avoid the raw, visceral, in the body experience of fear. So what do we do when we hear ourselves speaking such extreme self-talk to ourselves? Governor Cuomo suggested that we take some perspective to the situation. This pandemic, this is what this generation of people are called to do. It reminded me of another time in world history, another time in American history, when millions had reason to catastrophize, since they too were going through a catastrophe. And the story I like best from this time is the story of General Anthony McAuliffe. He was called Gentleman Anthony McAuliffe, as you'll see. It was right before Christmas in 1944. F Company of the 101st were tired, cold, hungry, and surrounded at Bastogne in France. A group of German soldiers, officers, came forward under a white flag. They had a letter for General McAuliffe, the commander. In that letter, they threatened annihilation if the U.S. troops would not surrender. The letter was brought to General McAuliffe, and his first spontaneous response when he saw the letter, he responded, "Us? Surrender? Ah, nuts!" He and his officers discussed how to frame this as a formal written reply for the Germans, and they decided that this would be their reply to the German commander, "Nuts," the American commander. That was the whole message. Nuts. In your dreams. Not in this lifetime or any other lifetime. You gotta be kidding me. No way. Nuts. This was our response. This is who we are. This is what we do in the face of fear. Now, General McAuliffe was known as the Gentleman General because, unlike so many, he refused to use the usual and ordinary four-letter words. His speech was not peppered with four-letter words, as it is for so many military now, as it was then. So when he responded, "Nuts," the Germans didn't understand the reply. It had to be explained to them, which is quite curious because if General McAuliffe had used the usual word that begins with an F, the Germans would have understood it right away because that word happens to derive from Old German. They would have got it right away if he had used that word, but he didn't. He was not only true to his post and his position and his nation, he was true to himself as a gentleman. He didn't use that language. Military or not, he didn't use that language. And he replied, "Nuts." So what do we do when we hear such extreme self-talk today as, "I can't do this anymore," in our head? I suggest we remember people like General McAuliffe and emulate what he himself did. This is who we are. We don't give way to fear in the sense of allowing ourselves to be dominated by fear-based thinking, even in the most trying of circumstances. When you hear fear-based thinking in your head, recognize it for what it is. Literally say to yourself, "This is my fear talking," and talk back. Remember the centering focus that I suggested in the last video? A few words, a statement, a mantra, an anthem, a prayer. Well, General McAuliffe's one word could be that centering focus. When you hear yourself say things extreme, like "I can't do this," say what he said, "Nuts." If you say, "What if this, what if that?" Nuts. If you hear yourself say, "I can't, but I can't," nuts. Refocus your thinking by breaking yourself away from your worst fear-based thinking to help yourself shift to a more positive, constructive way of thinking. Catastrophizing is never helpful. It is never helpful for us to think this way. in a time of actual catastrophe, it's imperative that we grab a hold of our thinking, hear it for what it is, and talk back. Make a decision to talk back. You hear yourself speaking the most negative way, you recognize, oh, this means that I am afraid, nuts to that, I have duties to do, I have things to do, I will move forward, I will do my best, I will continue. Fear-based thinking is never helpful, and we are never slaves or victims of fear-based thinking. We have the ability to talk back, to use our self-talk in a constructive, positive way. And so, here is what I would suggest we say, our collective message, paralleling what General McAuliffe said. We can say to COVID-19, nuts, the USA and entire planet. Let's let that be our message. The issue with all such fear-based thinking, like, I can't do this, is that if we keep saying it to ourselves, we may come to where we believe it. And it's not true. We all have reserves inside ourselves that we can reach for to help ourselves in the current situation. Your reserve inside of you, you may not even know about it because you've never had to use it. You've never had to reach for it, to dig for it, to really work to find it and create it. But it's there. Yes, it's there. This brain and this body has been evolving, our paleontologists say, in hominin form for 3 million years, and in Homo sapiens form for at least 300,000 years. If we humans, if it were true that we really can't do it, then we would have sat down at the edge of the savannah until the lions came for us. And this planet would have been done with us eons ago. Have you noticed how dangerous this planet is? If the earth isn't shaking under your feet, it's throwing lava bombs at you from the sky. And if that's not happened, 200-mile-per-hour winds are trying to sweep you away in a typhoon or a hurricane or a tornado. And if that's not happening, maybe you're running from a forest fire. This planet is a dangerous place to live. So we should not really, deep down inside, be surprised that there's such a thing as COVID-19. This is just the latest of a very, very long history of this planet trying to wipe us out. It hasn't succeeded. It'll never succeed. Because this brain that you have to deal with whatever it is you're dealing with during this time of pandemic has been forming, shaping, growing for at least 300,000 years to be the perfect instrument for you to use to help yourself, so that you do indeed take it. You do indeed do it, whatever it is for you that you have to do during this time of pandemic. So grab hold of whatever fear-based thinking is inside of you. Give yourself permission to really notice when you're thinking a fear-based thought, and say to yourself, oh, there it is, there I go again, that's fear talking in my head. Grab a hold of that self-talk and throw it out. Say, nuts. No, I won't. I won't dwell on these thoughts. I won't allow fear to possess me. I will visit fear. I'm not in denial, but I refuse to live there. America and Germany are allies now. Ich bin ein Berliner, eh? Funny thing history is, isn't it? 75 years later, America and Germany are fighting a common enemy together. We come together as human beings and bring the best of who we are to any situation. We've done that, we human beings, for a long, long time. We're not giving up now. Give up the fear-based thinking and allow yourself to proceed day to day in full awareness that, yes, this is a very frightening time, but we can handle it. We can handle it because we must handle it. Handle it means when we hear the fear-based thinking, when we hear the what if, we say nuts. When we hear, oh my God, I can't do this, we say nuts. When we hear ourselves say, I can't, we say nuts to that. Heaven and General McAuliffe are with us. May your angels bless you.